Veterans Day celebration at Muleshoe High School. I'm Greg Hill on behalf of Dr. Richards and all our staff and students at Muleshoe High School. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today. We're here to honor those who have served in our military. Students, we hope today you learn more about military service and the many sacrifices families and service members make. We have many local veterans and military members in our community, and we hope to show our appreciation to their duty and service to our country. Please stand while Miss Megan Moran leads us in prayer.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, I just thank you for this day and for the freedom you have given to us. You alone are the true source of our cherished rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You are the rock of this nation. Lord, today we honor our veterans, worthy men and women who gave their best when they were called upon to serve and protect their country. We thank you for the boldness you have provided to those who have fought and those who continue to fight for our nation. Lord, we give you praise for them, for they have allowed us to serve and worship you in freedom. We ask for your covering and blessing over them and their families. We pray for your great favor and goodness to be evident in their lives. Lord, I ask that you comfort the hearts of those who have lost loved ones who were called to serve. I pray that you bring comfort to those families and allow them to know we have not forgotten their loved ones' sacrifice. Lord, help us all be aware of your presence and fulfill us with peace and gratitude. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Minnie. Today we are honored to have the Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Command from Clovis High School for the presentation of colors. The JROTC is led by Cadets Savannah Dimitrov, Ileana Gutierrez, Gabe Roth, and Felicity Gallegos. They are under the guidance of Lieutenant Colonel Les Ball, the JROTC instructor. Please stand as the flags are presented.
Color! Take! Head! Right! Head! Right shoulder! Hard! Forward! Hard!
Please join me in pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas flag. Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Please stay standing for the national anthem played by our MHS Mighty M Band under the direction of Mr. Donnie Reston and Mr. Ben Stefano. You may be seated.
At this time, we would like to recognize several special guests who are in attendance. First, Muleshoe ISD employees who have served in the military, are currently serving, or have a spouse who has served or is serving in the military. Would you please stand? We have a special guest here today, Mr. Krim, military veteran and resident of Parkview Nursing Home. Would all veterans in attendance please stand? We are incredibly thankful and grateful for your service. Thank you for taking time to be with us today and also for your service. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come celebrate this day. Thank you.
Our mighty band will be performing at this time Ultimate Valor by Jared Hall. Please welcome Coach Austin Ross, who is currently serving in the U.S. Army Reserves this stage.
All right. Good morning, everybody. The history of Veterans Day, according to History.com. Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day on November 11th, 1919, the first anniversary of the end of World War I. Congress passed a resolution in 1926 for an annual observance, and November 11th became a national holiday in 1938. Unlike Memorial Day, Veterans Day pays tribute to all American veterans, living or dead, but especially gives thanks to living veterans who served their country honorably during war or peacetime. 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower officially changed the holiday's name from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Veterans Day commemorates veterans of all wars.
Thank you, Coach Ross. When Ms. Smith and I started planning this assembly this year, it was important to me as a teacher that we gave our students an education, that you learned something from today. So when we started talking about guest speakers to come or what we were going to do today, and as many of you know, my husband served in the military for 20 years and still continues to serve as a retired contractor through Cannon Air Force Base. I was sharing with him that we were planning this ceremony or this assembly, and he said, hey, he goes, I work with a young captain, a pilot, who I think would be a good representation of the military and how it has changed his life and how our students can relate to it. So it was an honor that I got to invite Captain Washington Morales to speak to you today. Captain Washington Morales, is an evaluator combat systems officer assigned to the 318th Special Operations Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base. He is 35 years old. Captain Morales Rosales was born in Ecuador on the 22nd of December in 1988. He attended Liceo Auditorium High School, graduating in September 2006. While in high school, he was part of such events as soccer, basketball, and swimming. In 2012, his family moved to the United States. In 2013, he enlisted in the Air Force as a power production apprentice and reserved his first assignment to the 22nd Civil Engineering Squadron at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. While at McConnell Air Force Base, Captain Rosales delivered superior performances which earned him Senior Airman Below the Zone and Honor Guardsman of the Quarter and of the Year in 2015. And in military terms, that's a big deal. In 2006, he deployed to the Middle East supporting Operation Inherent Resolve. 1 year later, Captain Rosales was commissioned as second lieutenant and arrived at Naval Air Station Pensacola in April 2017, where he began undergraduate combat system officers training. Upon graduation in 2018, he received his dream assignment as combat systems officer on the U-28 Draco at Hurlburt Field, Florida. Captain Morales Rosales arrived at the 19th Flying Training Squadron in July 2018. He was assigned to the 308th Special Operations Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base. He has been deployed 6 times and has held positions as training officer, executive officer, chief executive officer, and flight commander. He has since become an instructor and evaluator combat system officer and will be deployed in the fall of 2024. He has been awarded 11 air medals with C devices, amongst others. He has amounted to 1,238 combat hours, 528 combat support hours, and over 1,766 flight officers. It is my honor to introduce Captain Morales.
Good morning, everyone. Let's see if I can take this off. Perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction. First off, I would like to thank all the veterans here in attendance. I want to thank you for your service, and I know how important for us, the active duty members, has been the legacy that you have set out for our nation. So, like Valerie said, my name is Washington Morales. I was born and raised in Ecuador, 1988, long time ago. I'm 35 years old. In a month I'll be like 36 years old. Time to feel old, right? I was born and raised in Ecuador, Ibarra, a small town, approximately 2,000, maybe like 3,000 citizens. In 2012, I said my family and I decided to make a big step that will change the future of our lives, which was pursuing the American dream. So what happened? 2008, my mom, she wanted to move to the United States, and everyone was like, hey, why do you need to do that? You're an Ecuadorian. Why are you living your comfort zone? The short answer is the American dream. How many of you are like familiar or know what the concept of the American dream is? All right, you. Yes, sir. A dream to make a better life for yourself here in the U.S. Perfect. Someone else, any idea from the middle area? No, not you, Camille. Anyone? What about my right side? Anyone? Any ideas about the American dream? Someone has to have an idea about the American dream. No? Okay. Well, I love your the concept, the idea you proposed. Completely valid. In my opinion, the American dream is leaving your comfort zone and put yourself in a situation that will make you fear for your future. What I'm saying, like make you fear for your future, I didn't know how to speak English when I moved to the United States in 2012. Very broken English. I was working on a golf course, and one day I decided to join the Air Force. I was not a citizen, I was a green card holder, so I had to join as an enlisted member. What that meant, for like American citizens, you have the option up to like 108 jobs. For me, I had 12 jobs available for me. And I decided to take a leap of faith, and I joined as a civil engineering power production. That's like the fancy name. Bottom line, I was changing oil and working with like electric systems all day long. My first unit station was at Wichita, Kansas, working with the KC-135s. The tankers, they fly like big circles in the sky, far away from the combat zones. But that gave me enough time to think about the American dream, which was, I wanted to become an aviator, I wanted to become a pilot, I wanted to become a systems officer. So I was in Kansas, gave me enough time to prep for my future. And in 2017, I got selected to go to officer training school in Alabama. What that meant for me, it was like the biggest step towards my future, my American dream. Why? And now, U.S. citizen, becoming an aviator, when many people told me the American sky was not built for like a non-native speaker. That was like something, a dagger that went straight to my heart. We're like, yeah, I can prove you wrong and I will become the best pilot in the special operations units. So, forwarding to 2017, became a combat systems officer, and then I went to Pensacola for training. I was there for like 18 months, and then my first ops unit here, Cannon Air Force Base. I brought my beautiful wife, Viviana, my daughter. She's 3.5 years old right now, Camille. They joined this journey with me. I've been at Cannon for 5.5 years. I'll be moving soon, but if I can tell you something, I have learned so much about the military here in like Cannon Air Force Base that you have no idea. Nobody else can learn like so much at any other places. So I would like to cover you like 3 little questions that people always answer me. First one, why did you join the Air Force? What's your job in the Air Force? And how is your job in the Air Force like shaping other people for their future? 3 reasons on why I joined the Air Force. First one, like I mentioned, the American dream. I decided to leave my comfort zone, put myself in a situation makes me fear for my future. Like, okay, I don't think I can make this one, but I want to prove everyone wrong that I can do it. And here I am with a set of wings on my chest. The second one, to make myself better, not just as an airman, as a husband, as a son, as a brother. Coming from like a big family, I have 2 brothers, 3 sisters, so it's my responsibility to set up the pace, the example, the standard for my young sisters and for my old brothers. Side note, my brother is a captain also, is in Guam, and he's also a civil engineering officer. Also, he pursued the American dream and he made it. Even though he didn't like to fly, but he's kind of like, hey, this is what I wanted to do, here I am, killing it in Guam. What's my job in the United States Air Force? Like Valerie said, I'm a U-28 Combat Systems Officer. I'm in charge of what we call in the military the ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. Bottom line, and I don't want to offend anyone, but we chase bad people and break their stuff. That's what we do in the Air Force. So my job is to prevent from anyone to harm any American citizens in the future. So like she said, been deployed 6 times. I've been like all over the place, Africa, Iraq, Afghanistan, and a few other undisclosed locations. But I'm so proud of what I do that I would take this sacrifice anytime, anywhere, at any place. My second job, my grand duty in the Air Force, I'm a flight commander. So what does that mean? Anyone has an idea what a flight commander is? Rough whack? I will have I give you candy, but I don't have any. Camille ate it all. So a flight commander is a supervisor. So I'm in charge of the professional development and the welfare of approximately 25 officers, rated officers in my flight. So what does that mean? Professional development. I need to make sure they're following the right path, they stay out of trouble, and they become the best officers, the best aviators in our unit. With the promise in the future to become the best officers, aviator in the group, in the wing, in the MACHCOM, in the entire Air Force. When I say welfare, if something happens to them, I'm directly responsible for their well-being. That includes my family members and any other friends. Unfortunately, Cannon Air Force Base is not the best location, or the most desirable location, base-wise, in the United States Air Force. So I need to make sure they're like taken care of, they work hard, And mainly, they're like well represented in front of the leadership, squadron, group, wing. And the last question, how my job like shapes the airmen for the future. As I said before, my job as a brother, son, husband, I need to set the example, the standard for my family. Now the Air Force has become my family, and I need to set the standard for them. If I was able, I call myself sometimes like a broken English speaker. If I was able to get to this position as a flight commander and evaluator, I need to set this pace for other people so they can do the same. Just for the record, I speak Spanish as well, so if you feel comfortable asking any questions in Spanish, go for it. A little bit like extra, something I'd like to talk to you guys, the most memorable moment in my entire Air Force career. So I always like to separate the family moments and the military moments. The most memorable family moment, it's right there, watching videos. I don't know what she's watching at right now. She's watching the cartoons. But Camille, she was born February 13, 2021, right when I was getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. Many people told me, hey, she's like, I deployed mid-March. She's like a 1 month old baby. Why are you doing this? Are you like a war addict or anything? Like, no, I just love this country so much that I will give anything I can to give back a little bit all the benefits, all the rewards this country has given me. And that little thing right there, my daughter, she's compiles everything about the Air Force in my civilian life. So on the family side, she's the most memorable moment. On the military side, deployments are like a big sacrifice for everyone. Deploy 6 times, and every time I come back from that deployment, my wife, she's always ready to have something cheesy at the airport with the balloons and the signs, which I do really hate. But at the same time, it makes me so happy knowing that someone cares about me as much as I care about them and as much as I care about this country. I didn't have a script. Those are like the things that I would like to talk to. Does anyone has any question that I would like to ask and provide you an answer? Is anyone interested in joining the military in the near future? Perfect question. Thanks for asking. So I enlisted in 2012. Correction, my bad. That's my brother. I was like, we had the same first name, the same last name, so I kind of confused myself with my brother. So 2013, September 2013, I joined the Air Force as a green card holder. And for many of you, if you don't know, the Air Force, well, the military will help you get your citizenship after you complete a 2-month, we call like basic training, boot camp in San Antonio. So I went to boot camp San Antonio, September 2013. I did my due diligence, working with my MTI. When I say due diligence, like bugging him every day, hey sir, my citizenship. So I made the right appointments. By the end of BMT, a day prior to my graduation, I got my citizenship. It was beautiful because for some reason, I was the only airman standing in front of like thousands of people who were there for the airman graduation, and I was the only green card holder becoming a citizen. My first name is Washington. I'm not going to tell you my call sign because I don't like it, but I go by Washi. So everyone at the crowd was like yelling, Washi, Washi. But yeah, it took me September 13, I joined, enlisted in the Air Force. November 2013, I got my citizenship. And in the future, 2 years later, I was able to apply to officer training school. That's a great question. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good question. That's a fantastic question. What advice I have for those who desire to join or will join the military in the future? That's a loaded question. So, I would suggest like two things. First off, never stop chasing your dreams. I know I'm big into like the big American dream because I'm a witness that you can make that happen. The American dream is not just like something fancy that politicians like talk about. It's a reality, and I'm like the true witness about that. So never stop chasing your dreams. Whatever is your job, whatever is your dream, never settle about like until you get it. And once you get your job, think about what's the next thing. Like, okay, I'm gonna be an enlisted. Can I become an officer? If I'm an officer, can I become a pilot? Can I become a commander? Can I become like a wing commander? Never stop like looking for that development, that progression. The second one, sacrifices. I've been away from home, if I do the math correctly, 6 times, so it's 18, approximately like 32 months total. That's like a long time away from family, especially having a wife and my daughter. I have missed like so many special moments, Christmas, birthdays. So everything is about sacrifices. So my best advice, give your best, but at the same time, surround yourself with the best and with the people that can support you in those like rough moments. Now we're deploying, we used to do like a 3 months deployment, 3 on, 6 off. Now we're doing 6 months deployed, 18 months off, which in my opinion is not a good timing, especially having kids. But hey, that's the sacrifice we're doing for signing the dotted line. So sacrifices, surrender yourself, surround yourself with people who can support you along your career. And if you have family, learn how to dedicate time to your family and to your Air Force family as well. Great question, thank you. Bill, do you have any questions from your 20 years of service? He's a good friend. I have deployed with you 3, 4 times maybe, all over the place. Anyone? I would like to hear a question from a young student who's been thinking about joining, I don't know, honor guard.
What was the most difficult part of becoming a systems officer, and what inspired you to make that dream come true?
Man, I love that question, and I'm pretty sure you guys can know the accent, right? It was like, I'm a non-native speaker. When I decided I wanted to become an aviator, the first thing I went to Pensacola flying the T6, like a small single prop trainer, and then switching to T1s. It's like a double jet engine plane. And the funny thing is, I had a mission sortie with a squadron commander, and I did like so bad, like talking on the radio, that he told me like, hey man, you know, as a CISO, as a combat systems officer, you're gonna be like talking on the radio a lot, and having this accent is not the perfect match. And then, funny enough, I got assigned to U-28s. Anyone can give me like ish guess, how many radios do we manage or monitor in the U-28s by you? Because you know. Anyone like a rough whack between 1 to 10, how many radios do we manage at all time? Close, very, very close. 9. Who said 9? Perfect. That's a gold star for you. So we have 9 radios. Imagine we have 4 aircrew members, 9 radios going off at the same time, So everyone will have between 2 to 3 radios to talk on. And back to that really bad mission I had with the commander, I'm like, man, this accent is killing me. I'm not gonna lie. Because sometimes I had to talk so much on the radio, like a few times I was like talking to the ground team in Spanish, and they're like, what are you saying, kiddo? Like, okay, never mind. So that was the most challenging part for me, the cultural shock, cultural shift from being in Ecuador, like a very slow-paced culture, to joining the Air Force at a very high pace. We call it like a low context, high context. The US, a very low context culture, Ecuador, high context. Everything is about like friendships and things like that. The US Air Force, hey, let's get this mission done right now, let's go. And what was my inspiration? Right there? My two, well, I didn't have my daughter at that time, but my wife was my inspiration. Plenty of times, plenty of days, she saw me coming back home from a really bad mission. She was like crying, like, man, I don't like this job anymore. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I expected. But she's like, hey, everything is gonna be okay. Take a break, let's go for a walk. Let's try again tomorrow. Tomorrow, even worse, terrible day. The worst mission ever. Would be an evaluator, you would be like, this guy is out. I'm not wasting my time with this person. Came back home crying. My wife like, hey, that's all right. Like a second day in a row. Let's try again tomorrow. Another day, getting better. And so back to the original question, my wife was my inspiration. I don't know how much time we have. Okay. Anyone, any other question? That was a really good question, by the way. I was honored there in 2015 in Kansas. Unfortunately, I got to do some ceremonies for members that passed away, which breaks my heart. Back there, what you got?
Were you scared? Like, what made you not scared?
If I was scared, and what was the second part?
Like, why weren't you scared? Like, why were you so brave?
Okay. I know. I was scared, yes. Do you remember like my concept about like, the American dream? Something that makes you fear. If you're not like comfortable with it, I think it's worth pursuing. When I became an enlisted, I was pretty good at my job. Changing oil, it's not hard. Just warm up, get the oil out, put new oil, put a new filter, call it a day. And I was like, cool, no offense, but at one point in my life, I don't want to do this for like 20 years. I don't want my daughter, my grandsons to remind, hey, this guy was in Air Force. He changed oil for like 20 years, which is, you got really good at it. But like, I want to be a part of something bigger, the big picture. And I was like, hey, I want to become an officer. I want to apply for OTS. Cool, got selected. Hey, I want to fly. All right, sweet. Now, I got that moment, like, okay, everything's like perfect, until I got on my first mission in the back seat of a T6. Key in the mic, that was like pure fear. Like the first time talking to someone on the radio, I'm like, this is the worst job ever. Why? Because I was completely outside of my comfort zone, and like in that gray area with like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. It was like many times because in the Air Force, if you're not good enough for your job during training, they're gonna kick you out, they're gonna send you to a different job. And I didn't want to be that guy that, hey, I was not able to complete this flying training because X, Y, and Z. That was my biggest fear, failure. I think that was failure was driving the biggest fear in my life regarding training. And I just didn't want to be set a bad example, or like a failure example for my wife, for my daughter, for my brothers, for my sisters, for my whole family. I didn't want to be that guy who was not able to complete or fulfill the American dream. Does that answer your question? Perfect question, thank you. Well, thank you so much for giving me like one last question. What you got?
Do you think you achieved the American dream?
I have achieved, let me put do some Ecuadorian math really quick. 75% of the American dream. Why? Because now that I'm doing good, I'm getting comfortable in my comfort zone, right? I don't like that. I'm completely opposed to being like settled in your comfort zone. So now my next thing in the future, I want to do my career development in Spain or Colombia, and then I'll become a commander. If you ask me back to that question, do I have fear to go to like Spain or Colombia? Absolutely. Not because of the language, because I want to be working with people that I have never worked with them before. Like Spain Army, Spain Air Force, Colombian, I don't know, Marine Navy. So I'm at 75% complete. I'll get back to you 2034. It's my separation date. And then I'll tell you, I'm like 100, at least 99.9% complete with the American dream. But as of now, I'm gonna say yes, it's gonna be a push. That's what we call in the military, when you like fail or pass, it's gonna be a push. I have achieved the American dream that I wanted up to this point. Whenever I become a commander, it's gonna be a different story. I want to say thank you for having me here, Daryl, Valerie, totally appreciate. I know I didn't have like a script or anything, no slides, my apologies for that, but I just wanted to say thank you for the veterans. I appreciate your service. You guys have established, cement the plan or the career progression for all the active duty young members. I'm not that young, but I still can call myself young. Thank you all for the young students. Just keep grinding. That's the base advice that I can give you. Keep working hard, stay out of trouble. And if you have any questions, Daryl, Valerie, I'm gonna give you my contact information. Don't hesitate to shoot me a message, an email, or like a phone call. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Washington, for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. And I know that the message was well received. And students, I hope you take what he said to heart about pursuing the American dream. As I said earlier, part of this assembly was educating students about the military, about our veterans, and about things happening in our community. We reached out to KCBD, the television station out of Lubbock. They participate in the South Plains Honor Flight and are currently, in fact today, if you turn on Channel 11 or look on the Channel 11 website, they are doing a telethon to raise money for the South Plains Honor Flight. So KCBD was nice enough to send us a video specifically for our event today, and we are going to play that video here in just a minute.
Thank you so much for having us for your Veterans Day. Veterans Day Honor Flight Telethon, and we want to thank you so much for your support of the Texas South Plains Honor Flight and all that you've done to not only raise awareness, but also raise funds for this, what we call a trip of a lifetime.
Absolutely. Just yesterday I ran into one of our veterans who went on our trip with us just last week, and that's exactly what he said. I said, how was it? Are you recovering from not being able to sleep very much? And he just said, it was a trip of a lifetime. I also met his girlfriend, and she said the same thing, that was his response when he got home, that it was just the trip of a lifetime. And we can't thank you enough to help make this possible for our veterans. We just took 86 veterans with us to Washington, D.C. You're now seeing this on Veterans Day, so it's about a month away from when we were in D.C. And it's such a special time for our veterans to go and be together, and not just to visit those monuments, memorials, and museums, museums that we get to be a part of and take them there, but the brethren and being that camaraderie that they get to spend time together with those who have served the nation as well.
And of course, what makes this so special is they don't have to pay anything to go on this trip. And so that's why we rely on donations like you're raising and the awareness that you're raising there in Muleshoe for this trip. And as Christi said, we took 86 veterans, so you can only imagine the cost that goes into that. It's about $250,000 each trip, and we were so lucky that we had the funds and the generosity of the South Plains to go twice this year to Washington, D.C. And of course, it's all expenses paid for those veterans, as Christi mentioned as well, to see those monuments, those memorials and museums. We took Vietnam veterans, mostly Vietnam veterans, and Korea War era veterans to see their monuments and their memorials. And we lay wreaths across the nation's capital at each of those memorials, but also at the memorials of each branch of the military. And that's a significant moment for these veterans that get to go on this trip, because then they're able to think about the men and women that they served with who did not make it back home. And that's what those wreath layings symbolize and really bring to the forefront of their minds. We ask them all the time when we get done with those wreath layings, what did that mean to you to do that? And they always mention, they're thinking about those they fought alongside of and weren't able to come back home.
I kept thinking of all the Air Force comrades that some of them I knew personally that lost their lives, and all of them sacrificed to protect our country.
It gave me chills. Actually gave me chills. I've got chills right now. And it has given me the appreciation of all the Marines that have gone before us. They have absolutely done a marvelous thing for this nation. Our nation really should be proud.
I'm sorry, I didn't know when I went on this trip that I would be doing this. It's the greatest honor I've ever had.
One thing I think that really brings to the forefront when we get to spend time with our veterans is the sacrifice that they do give to their country. And especially, we had our oldest vet who was on the trip with us this past trip. He was 94 years old, is 94 years old, and he was in the Korean War conflict. And he said one thing about our youngsters today, he wishes more people would serve, because it teaches you so much about loving your country and having a great and broader respect for the United States and our freedom. And these are men and women who truly understand and have seen countries where freedom is not what we have, and it really personifies that freedom is not free. And we are so thankful for those donations. As Kase mentioned, it is incredibly expensive. It costs us about $250,000 every trip that we take, and we are so lucky that we do have so many people in our area who are so generous to help us send our veterans to Washington, D.C. We do have a mail call on the plane, and one of our vets said that his grandson sent him $50 so that he was able to buy something for himself when he was on this past flight. I actually didn't ask him if he ended up spending that money.
Well, I hope he got his grandson something as well, maybe something from a gift shop too. As Christi mentioned, the veterans are very appreciative, especially of our young people like you who say thank you. We go across the nation's capital, and there are a lot of school groups like you who are there and take time to stop and shake the hand of a veteran. So on this Veterans Day, as you're learning about the sacrifice of our veterans and what they've made for our country in their service, just go out. If you see a veteran, thank a veteran for their service, whether they've been on the honor flight or not. And then tell them to sign up for the honor flight if they haven't gone, because this is the South Plains honor flight. Veterans from Muleshoe and all across the South Plains get to go on this honor flight. So you can
have vets from Muleshoe,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And you can not only sign up to be a veteran, but also a volunteer. If you think of something that you would like to do and to give back to the honor flight, is a great thing to volunteer to be a part of, because it is made up of volunteers. Nobody gets paid to put this flight together year after year. And we should mention it's 3 days in the nation's capital, 2 nights in the nation's capital. So it really is a trip of a lifetime. And we can't thank you enough for your contributions. And the South Plains Honor Flight and KCBD's partnership actually got started in 2012 but the first telethon that KCBD hosted to get this flight off the ground, that first flight, and it's been a tradition ever since, and we're so grateful that we get to continue today to do that.
We are, and one thing that I will add that Kase mentioned, talking about thanking a veteran, you know, so many of our veterans never got a thank you, especially our Vietnam vets. We focus a lot on saying our Vietnam vets were treated horribly when they came back. You know, our Korean War vets, it's known as the Forgotten War. So many people who served in the Korean conflict were never given that welcome home or a thank you as well, because it was kind of one of those things that was out of sight, out of mind for a lot of Americans. So hopefully you guys will take a moment to look back on the history of those two wars and why these veterans who are walking alongside us or at the grocery store with you deserve a special thank you. And a lot of them, and one of the things that I absolutely love is a lot of our veterans will wear either their branch of service, when they served, what they served in, but a lot of ours who go on the honor flight with us will proudly wear that honor flight hat when they come home, and it's easy to spot them in the crowd because they wear it, I think, kind of as a badge of honor, and they're very happy that they were able to go on the honor flight.
And so if you're out in the community, look out for those hats as well. And as you get home from school today, tune into the Honor Flight Telethon. Be sure to join us as well. And we, again, thank you for your contribution. And we're putting some of those stories out there from this past flight on the air today as well. So go to kcbd.com if you missed any of those. And of course, continue to support the South Plains Honor Flight. So thank you, Muleshoe.
Thank you for having us, and happy Veterans Day.
We thank KCBD for sending their video and for the work with the South Plains Honor Flight. Today we're fortunate to have the director of the South Plains Honor Flight organization, Miss Allen, a Muleshoe High School graduate, and she's here to share some information about her organization and also how some of our local veterans have benefited from the South Plains Honor Flight.
Good morning. I first want to thank Muleshoe High School and Mrs. McCamish for inviting me to your Veterans Day celebration to talk and share a little bit more about the Texas South Plains Honor Flight. I did bring a script because if I could talk all day about Honor Flight, and you don't want to hear that. So I'll stick to that. I also have a PowerPoint presentation, so I appreciate the audiovisual department for helping me with that. So my name is Angela Allen, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Texas South Plains Honor Flight. You heard a little bit about it from our friends Kase and Christi, who are hosting our annual telethon currently on News Channel 11. I am also a 2003 graduate of Muleshoe High School, so I'm it's incredibly special for me to get to come home and speak with you today about this organization that is incredibly near and dear to me and our team of volunteers. So I would like to start. I know we've recognized a few times, but if you are a veteran, will you raise your hand so that we can recognize you? Happy Veterans Day. If you are a Vietnam veteran, would you continue and raise your hand as a Vietnam veteran? Welcome home. So my history with the South Plains Honor Flight starts in 2015. I'm a nurse and I was working at the Lubbock VA clinic when one of my coworkers who worked with the Texas South Plains Honor Flight, he's a PA, Vietnam Marine Corps veteran, Mike Travis, one of our founding fathers with our organization. He came up to me at work one day and he said, hey kid, what are you doing this weekend? And I don't think I was doing anything. And he said, Amarillo has an honor flight going this weekend and they need a medic, so I told him you would do it. So if you'll just make sure that's okay with your boss, you need to be off this weekend, and I need you to go to DC with this group of heroes to make sure they're medically safe. So I said, okay, I'll do that. Got everything arranged, got my bags packed, drove to Amarillo not having any idea what to expect. And now I'm still with the organization, but in Lubbock, of course, 10 years later. So that's the impact that Honor Flight has had on my life. I've been on many trips as bus captain, as medical staff, in many different roles, wearing many different hats, and now in my second stint as the president of the organization. And I don't think they're anywhere close to getting rid of me. So it's truly amazing, and it's made a huge impact on my life. Next slide, please. So what is our mission in the Texas South Plains Honor Flight? Essentially, it is to take our nation's heroes to our capital to see the memorials that were, the memorials and monuments that were erected in honor of their service. So it's a way to give back to our veterans and get them to our capital so that they can see their memorials. A second part of this mission is to allow them to pay tribute to their brothers and sisters who paid the ultimate sacrifice, who did not get the opportunity to come home. And it allows them to have that closure and experience with their brothers and sisters on the flight. Next slide. So this is a video, and we're going to get it pulled up, but essentially it just kind of gives you the backstory of the honor flight. I thought that it put it much more eloquently than I could, but I will tell you, honor flight started as a means to get our World War II veterans to DC to see the new World War II memorial that was built in 2001. It opened to the public in 2004, and there is a PA, Earl Morse, who worked at a VA clinic in Ohio. And it started, he was talking to some of his patients, World War II veterans, who, he's just asking, hey, are you gonna get an opportunity to go? You need to go see this memorial that was built. And many of them, of course, were either old, aged, that they weren't able to travel easily, did not have the financial means to get to Washington, D.C., and that's where the idea of Honor Flight was born. So I'll ask if we can share that video, please.
Last year, a memorial honoring our 16 million World War II veterans opened in Washington. However, the trek to the nation's capital is difficult for many of those vets who are now well into their 70s and 80s. In Ohio, a group of volunteers is doing something about that, making sure their sacrifice is not forgotten. Jeff Hirsch from our Cincinnati station WKRC explains.
November 600 X-ray, right turn Bravo 2, Texas to the east ramp, monitor ground point 8.
They came from the skies, as so many of them had done before, decades ago, saving the world, no questions asked. But if there ever was any question about what era they belonged to, you only had to listen.
Hi, boys!
They came this time in a squadron of 7 small airplanes, one after another, bringing old men to see something which belongs to them, but which had seemed impossibly out of reach.
Well, I never thought I'd make it, really.
The passengers, a dozen World War II veterans.
The name of our program is Honor Flight.
The pilots, all volunteers from Ohio.
The first night that I asked for volunteers to help out, I had 11 people volunteering to donate the $400 to $750 it takes to rent an aircraft for the full day.
The destination.
Taylor, welcome to Analysis to Washington.
Okay.
I enlisted on my 17th birthday, January 21st, 1942.
Until Honor Flight, veterans like 80-year-old Leonard Lloyd had no chance to make it here. Too infirm for a 10-hour car or bus ride, not rich enough for a plane ticket, Lloyd would have lived out his days unable to see America's thank you. That is until Earl Morse, a physician's assistant in Springfield, Ohio, asked Lloyd, one of his patients, a question.
Do you have any plans of going? Will you ever see your memorial? And his answer was no, no, no.
But Morse, a former Air Force medic, said something else. I'm renting an airplane. Want to go?
I was ready for him to say yes or no, or let me discuss it with my wife. I wasn't ready for him to start crying. And that's when I knew that we were on to something.
And so Honor Flight was born. Leonard Lloyd joined the Navy, took part in 4 invasions. William Taylor joined the Army and ended up as a German prisoner of war. To Taylor as well, the memorial was just a distant dream.
No, I never thought I'd ever make it. But when I did, it's because somebody else cared.
Taylor navigated his memorial in a scooter. A stroke 10 years ago made so much walking impossible.
Just sit here and relax. Soak it all up.
Soaking it all up meant remembering the fallen, more than 400,000.
Thinking about them.
Thoughts of what could have been, should have been.
Well, I wish that all of them that passed away before it was built could see it.
The volunteer pilots would like to bring more veterans here, one group a month through the summer and the fall. And time truly is of the essence, because since planning for Honor Flight began back in January, 9 of the World War II veterans who wanted to come here have passed away.
160 more are on the waiting list in southwestern Ohio alone.
I know that is an insurmountable task. But when I'm their age and I'm sitting in a wheelchair on my front porch asking myself, you know, what have you done with your life? What have you done that has been significant? Hopefully I'll be able to look back and say that I did everything I could to get the greatest generation of veterans to their memorial.
For CBS News, Jeff Hirsch in Washington.
What a program. The fact is so many of those folks are really getting on in age. 1,500 veterans on a given day from World War II are dying every day in the United States.
So it's important to just take a little moment today, think about the sacrifices that they've all made.
We want to wish you a happy and safe Memorial Day. Your local news is next. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for allowing me to show that video. Like I said, it just kind of puts into words how Honor Flight got started, why it got started. And so that video was from 2005, so we're nearly 20 years later. And in that time, Honor Flight Network, which is now a national program, has 128 hubs, meaning there are 128 Honor Flight programs across 45 states. We now expand to serve veterans from World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. And so all of those veterans are eligible to go on an honor flight in their area. Each hub has, different application process and things like that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our hub in Lubbock at the Texas South Plains Honor Flight. To date, at the end of 2023, when they compiled our numbers at Honor Flight National, over 295,000 veterans had been flown through Honor Flight Network to our nation's capital, which is pretty impressive. So our Honor Flight hub in Lubbock, like Kase and Christi said in their video, was started in 2012. Our local hub was started by a group of veterans spearheaded by a Vietnam veteran, Charlie Scarborough, who unfortunately passed away earlier this year. But Honor Flight was a passion of his. He heard about it. He thought that this was an amazing way to honor our veterans and that it was something that we needed in our area. And so truly, very literally, our organization started with this group of veterans putting tables out in front of United supermarkets and asking for donations. And that first flight with those donations and with the telethon with KCBD was funded in 6 months, and our first flight got off the ground. In Texas, we have 7 hubs. There's one in DFW, in Austin, San Antonio, Houston, El Paso, and then the Midland-Odessa area. So our hub in Lubbock, Texas South Plains, we serve all the way up to Amarillo. We have taken veterans from eastern New Mexico, and we serve this entire area. Amarillo used to have a hub, but unfortunately, related to lack of donations and support from the area, they had to close that hub, and so our hub has absorbed that need. So we are completely funded by donations. I know Kase and Christi said that pretty well in our video. So we do operate with a budget of about $250,000 a year. About $235,000 of that is simply trip expenses. And when you look at what it costs to charter an airplane from Southwest, from Lubbock to the DC area, that alone is about $110,000, and we charter a flight. It's just trip expenses. Now, about $10,000 to $15,000 is operations, so having our cell phone and our website and things like that. But we are 100% donations, and we are 100% staffed by volunteers. I have a full-time job. Our trip director, everyone on our board and on our committee, most have full-time jobs. So we do this as a labor of love. I wouldn't change it for the world, though. So I'm trying to think what else I put on here. So got our operating budget. So the numbers that I have at the bottom of the screen, that is a rough average of the number of, I call it butts and seats on our airplane. So we charter a flight with Southwest, and we take an average of about 85 veterans each time, 40 guardians, and a guardian is often a family member of the veteran, sometimes a fellow veteran, a younger veteran, a community member who wants the opportunity to go and push a wheelchair and assist our veterans. You can imagine what an undertaking it is to take 85 veterans who are age 73 plus, up to our oldest veteran this last trip in October was 94, Mr. Cadell. And so it takes a team of individuals. We also have staff members consisting of bus captains, assistant bus captains, medical staff. Again, it's important to make sure we have the health and well-being of our veterans. We take our news crew from KCBD. We take a military liaison, so that was the Marine that you saw in uniform. He marches us in formation at every stop. And then we also bring our own bagpiper just to kind of add to the pomp and circumstance of the trip. Next slide, please. So how do we make this happen? It's a 3-day trip. Do we start planning the week before? Absolutely not. This is a year-round event. Like Kase and Christi mentioned, we actually did 2 flights this year. We did a flight in June, and then our board made the decision that we needed to go back to a fall timeline. So we got a second trip off the ground in October, and then going forward, we'll do 1 trip a year, and it will be in the fall each year. So our team of volunteers work year-round to make this a reality, and our cycle is kind of outlined here, but we have a monthly meeting with our committee members. So we have a committee of volunteers. We meet every month to talk about the goings-on, what events we've got going on, how we're doing on fundraising, and then we are already starting to line out the hotel for 2025 and get the flight charter done, things like that. And then we have our board of directors who oversee our operations and the decision-making of the organization. We have fundraising events throughout the year to meet that goal of $250,000. We host a golf tournament each summer. Gale Country Store in Gale near La Mesa hosts a benefit concert for us each year. And then we have our annual telethon on KCBD, like I said, that's going on today. We have various other events that we do and receive support from businesses, schools, individuals to make this happen. Outreach is a big deal for the Honor Flight. That's how we get our message out. That's how we let people know that we exist. So just like today, coming and speaking to you as a school, as a community, we do this across the area throughout the year to encourage veterans to apply, let them know that we're here, and just let them know how they can support us. A few months before the trip, we begin our selection. We take our list of applicants. We keep our repository of applications. We never get rid of an application. We keep them on file until a veteran is selected. We organize them by age. So our oldest veterans get priority. That is how our hub makes those decisions per Honor Flight national rules. So the oldest veterans get to go first. So generally that would be our World War II and Korean War veterans. And then as we get into our Vietnam veterans, we have to have a cutoff by age. Now, I will say we make special consideration for our what we call last chance veterans, or veterans who, for health reasons, may not have a next year. In October, we had a last chance veteran from the Desert Storm era, and unfortunately, he has a diagnosis where he likely will not have a next year, and so he got to go on his honor flight this fall. So we take these veterans and we invite them to a medical interview, which allows myself and other medical team members just to meet each veteran and anticipate what their medical needs may be on the trip. It allows us to count how many wheelchairs we might need, how many of our veterans are using oxygen, and like I said, when you're taking 85 veterans between the ages of 73 and 96 plus, health and wellness is incredibly important. Then becomes the fun part, the coordination and preparation, and 98 to 99% of the kudos for this goes to our trip director, Clint Gregg. He works tirelessly he works a lot to make sure that our buses are coordinated, all of our stops, and working with the national parks and getting hotel rooms coordinated for 143 people, making sure that we have meals and making sure that if someone has allergies that those are respected. So that truly is just scratches the surface to what he does to make sure that this trip happens. And then we have the big show. So this year I started joking that we with the Honor Flight organization are kind of like Santa's elves. We work all year to build the toys and get everything ready for Christmas, and then the trip is the actual Christmas. So that's when it all comes together, and that's when we get our veterans on the airplane and we take off to our nation's capital, and we spend 3 days, 2 nights touring, laying wreaths, and just honoring and thanking them for their service in a way that is incredibly unique and special. So we see lots of sites. We go to the war memorials, so World War II, the Korean War Memorial, and the Vietnam Wall. We visit the museums for both the Army and the Marine Corps, the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum. We see the Women's Memorial, the changing of the guard at Arlington National Cemetery, and many, many more stops. And having the 3 days, 2 nights is something that's completely unique to our trip. There are other hubs that do overnights, but many just do 1 day. They leave out early in the morning and then come back home that evening, and they don't get to see near the things that we do. And I'm so glad that our hub has that opportunity, because in that 3 days, we really kind of come together and form a group, almost like family, as cheesy as that sounds. So on the next couple of slides, I just have some pictures that I'd like to show you. So this is, these are from our June trip. So I'm going to take the mic out so that I can see what I'm looking at and tell you adequately. So in that far top right-hand corner, that is as our veterans were getting off of the airplane in Baltimore, and there are volunteers and just random people in the airport that come to welcome us and shake our veterans' hands and to thank them for their service and welcome them to our nation's capital. In the bottom right-hand corner, that was a really special presentation that we did in June. So our woman veteran and her daughter, who is also a veteran, was her guardian, and they were on our trip. And when we were at the Women's Memorial, we were able to honor them with a special ceremony, putting their story, their service into the archives of the Women's Memorial. And so we were able to honor them with a really special service. In the middle, that's our airplane, again, charter flight, so it is completely ours. It's filled with our veterans, staff, and guardians. That was as we were taking off from Lubbock. The top right, which is, this was at the 9/11 Pentagon Memorial. So this is something you see throughout the trip, and this is young people who are there visiting with their schools or even with their families, learning about their nation's history, and they're coming up to our veterans and just talking to them, thanking them for their service, but also asking questions that they now realize what they're supposed to be asking and talking about. And I've heard many veterans say that that is one of the most special parts of the entire trip, was getting to talk to the young people and share those stories. It's really very special. The bottom corner here is our bagpiper and our Marine walking our veterans into the World War II memorial to lay that wreath. Next slide, please. So this is our big group picture. We take this at Arlington National Cemetery. So all of our veterans wear red, our guardians wear navy, staff wear these royal blue, and our medical team members wear the neon green, so that they're very easy to find, because if you need a medic, you need them right now. So that's one of our group picture from June. In the bottom there, that's our group of Marines with our Marine military liaison laying the wreath at the Marine Corps Memorial Iwo Jima. You'll see we try to pay very special attention and make sure that our wreaths match either the ribbons that should go with that era or the service colors, things like that. We pay very special attention to that. And then the top picture there is the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. Next slide. We talked briefly, we of course focus on our World War II veterans. Our oldest veterans do get priority, but Honor Flight's mission has now become one that we include our Korean War veterans as well as our Vietnam veterans. And for our Vietnam veterans, this is incredibly special. Like Christi mentioned in the video, they did not receive a welcome home when they came home over 50 years ago. And so this is a very unique way that we get to hopefully provide some of that closure that wasn't received and truly honor their service to our country. On the left, that is the way that the Vietnam Wall was built was out of this black tile that was made to where you're supposed to be able to see your reflection in it, because many of our veterans see themselves in the names that are sitting on that wall. The design of this is incredible. You should really look it up and what all went into it. But I thought that was a really poignant picture to include. And then laying the wreath there for our Vietnam veterans. And then you'll see everybody on this right-hand picture lined up at the wall at salute as we were laying the wreath there. It's incredibly special for our Vietnam veterans in a way that it may not be for others. I'd like to read, so when we got back in October, I received an email from one of our veterans, and so I'm going to read just a piece of this because it was incredibly special, and it will really kind of drive home what it means to our Vietnam veterans, as that in our October flight, 83 of our 86 veterans were Vietnam veterans. So that is the bulk of what we are taking now. So this email, again, from a Vietnam veteran. Hello, Angela. Thanks again for an outstanding honor flight. I must tell you that all of my sadness, disappointment, bitterness, and heartache from coming home in 1970 was completely erased by this trip and your efforts. It's like I am now free. And my welcome home that I got on the 14th was the best and beyond anything I had ever hoped for. And so when we get messages like that and I hear that, that's why we do this. That is why the honor flight is important, and that's why our mission is critical. We want to go on as long as our donations and funding allow, so that we can get all of our veterans on this amazing trip. So in June, we had the opportunity to take one of our Muleshoe veterans. We have taken many veterans from Muleshoe on the trip, but Ron Morgan, I'm going to invite him to come up and give a veteran perspective on the trip. So I grew up across the street from Ron, went to school with his daughters, and so it was really special for me to get to take him on this trip of a lifetime because he was somebody I've known since I was young, and so I'm going to invite him up now.
It was a trip of a lifetime. And that's me. And all the people that didn't come on. There's lots of names. Give you a little insight. I was drafted, landed in Vietnam, and they called my name and said, "You're an 101st Airborne." I said, "Okay." Put us in a big room, and they said, "You're all going to join the 101st Airborne Club. Cost you $25. In 1960, 1970, yeah, $25, a lot of money. And he says, "You're going to buy this membership." We all looked at each other, and he said, "Now look at the guy next to you, and look at the guy on the other side of you. That $25 is that your mother gets a dozen roses." Because most of them aren't coming home. And it was a trip for a lifetime. Sorry, I'm emotional about it. It was a trip for a lifetime. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Ron, letting me put you on the spot and call you up here, because that's a perspective that I can't give as a civilian, as a volunteer. But to know, again, that it means so much to our veterans. Last slide, please. Or next slide, I think I have one more after that. And that happens a lot. I mean, there's so much emotion on the honor flight and on these trips. We don't say that we cry. We have honor flight allergies. And that's, it's a beautiful thing, and for our veterans to be able to share it alongside their brothers and sisters is incredibly special. So how can you help the honor flight? How can you be involved? What can you do to help us to continue our mission? So first and foremost, if you're a veteran, apply. Allow us to honor you in this very special way. We do applications on our website. I'll have that up in just a second. We keep your application on file until you're selected. So you may say, well, I'm not quite in that age range that you talked about yet. Apply, and then we will keep it until you are selected. If you are in that age range, for sure apply. We would love to be able to take you on our 2025 trip. If you have a group that we can speak with, a church group, a school, Lions Club, Rotary Club, If you have somewhere that our team can share this story and our mission, please let us know. I'll have our contact information on the next slide. I know we'll hang out for a little bit to answer any questions after the presentation. But let us know. We would love to talk about Honor Flight. Like I said, I could go on for days. I will not, but I could. Volunteer. So there's many ways that you can get involved. We have our meeting once a month. If you'd like to be on our email group, I know that everybody drives to Lubbock to go to Costco and HEB and all the things. So plan it on the first Monday of every month. Come to our meetings and join our team, because we cannot do it without the volunteers. You may be able to attend one of our fundraising events and man a table, something like that. Those are all very helpful things. Manpower is huge for this kind of operation. You're also welcome to volunteer to go as a guardian, help to push a wheelchair, share this trip with a veteran. Our guardians do pay for their trip expenses, and a discount is given to veterans who apply to go as guardians, but talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about that process. It's a very special role, and we could not do it without our guardians. Donations, like I said, we're 100% funded on donations, and every single dollar that we raise benefits our organization. A $5 donation, that helps to pay for a lunch for one of our veterans on a bus while we're in DC. A $125 donation, that helps us to get a hotel room for one of our pairs of veterans while we're in Washington, DC. The cost per veteran is $1,600. So $1,600 fully funds one veteran's trip of a lifetime to Washington, DC. But every single dollar up to that helps us. Today we're doing our telethon, and you can text Honor Flight to 53555, which I'll have on the next slide, and that is a way to donate by text, or you can call into the telethon. And then follow us on social media, like and share our posts. That really helps us to get visibility. It helps people to know what's going on. I know that when you're doing a birthday on Facebook, you can choose an organization to get donations for and ask your friends for. Consider Honor Flight. We are registered as a nonprofit with Facebook, and so we do get 100% of those donations. It comes directly to us. I can confirm that. So last slide, please. In closing, we'll leave this up if you want to grab a picture of it, but our website is texassouthplainshonorflight.org. We have our applications online. It has information about our group online, access to our pictures. We have an amazing photographer, Liz Park, who goes with us on our trips. She does a lot of photography for the Big 12, but she donates her time and talent to go with us to take our pictures, and they're free to download from her website. We have the link there. The Honor Flight cell phone number, 790-4635. If you have questions, you're welcome to reach out on that phone, and one of our team members would be happy to assist. If you have issues with applications, we have an email address. And then again today, our text to donate, text Honor Flight to 53555. In closing, happy Veterans Day to our veterans. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and share about our organization that means so much to me and so much to our veterans. It's truly an honor to come home and do this. So like I said, myself and Clint, our trip director, will hang out for a little bit at the reception to answer any questions you might have. But anyway, thank you so much, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Ms. Allen, for coming and talking with us today. This year, MHS started an effort to record and keep track of all past and present MHS students serving in the military. This will continue to be an ongoing project in the hopes of creating a list that will be passed on for many years. At this time, please direct your attention to the screen for a video featuring Muleshoe High School graduates and members of our Muleshoe community. We are grateful and appreciative of Gil Robert Reynolds for his assistance in editing this video.
Kenneth Henry. I served in the U.S. Army because they drafted me. But I finished school in Muleshoe in '54. I was out 2.5 years, and then I decided to go to college. And I graduated from college and thought I missed the Army because I had deferments back then. But I got me a job up in Peoria, Illinois, and the Army found me and drafted me. And I went to California for basic training, then I went to Oklahoma for military training for a while. Then they sent me to Korea, and in the meantime, we had a new baby girl, and so while I was in Korea, halfway through, you're over there for a full year, so many months, and my wife and new daughter got to come over, and we went. They give you an R&R over there for middle of your tour, and we went to Japan and spent 7 days. It was extremely cold in the winter and extremely hot in the summer, so it went from one extreme to the other. But when I first went over, I stood guard duty, and you do like they tell you, this just so many hours holding a gun, watching, staying awake. But then I got a job in an office, did away with the guard duty, so it made a lot of difference. We had morning reports, and that's what I was in charge of. And I wasn't a good typist or fast, but you could not make a mistake. And the guy before me was from New York, and he made a mistake every time he typed one. They'd send it back to him. He'd have to start over. I took my time, typed it, didn't make any mistakes. So the first sergeant kind of liked me after that, because he didn't see that deal coming back. Do it over, and send it again. So I did it right the first time. And a lot of things that happened in basic training. There were a lot of young kids. I was older than most of them, and they were mama's boys, if you know what I mean. So when the sergeant or somebody told them to do something, they'd say, I don't want to do that. And so they were usually kicked out because they didn't follow rules. But going to Korea was probably the highlight of the deal. Saw a lot of different stuff and got to go to Japan for a week, and that was fun.
Hello, my name is Jay Thaxton. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I served from 1985 until 1993, straight out of high school. Honestly, the reason I joined the military was because my father said I wasn't ready for college and college wasn't ready for me. In retrospect, serving in the Marine Corps saved my life. It gave me direction, it gave me discipline. It was the sole reason I was able to finish college after the military in 2.5 years instead of a traditional 4 or 6 or 8 years. It's always given me a foundation to fall back on as far as being dedicated and being able to persevere. So for that, I'm eternally grateful to the Marine Corps, and highly recommend to any young person who's feeling like they're not ready for something. The military is a great place to find out what you're really capable of.
Okay, I'm Richard Chitwood at Muleshoe, Texas. I went to Texas A&M in 1962 to 65. In the first part of A&M, there were no air conditioners in our dormitories, and no girls going to school there. In the last 2 years at Texas Tech, they let ladies in, and we had air conditioned in our dormitories. And then after that, I went to Texas Tech at 1966 to 68, and by doing that, I was holding off my time of having to go to Vietnam, so that gave me another some more. And I was in the Army in 1968 to 1960, and in Vietnam, I was there from 1969 to 70. Now the airplane or charter planes from the U.S. to take us to Vietnam, and the name of the airplane that we took us to Muleshoe, to up in the U.S. To Vietnam was called a Flying Tiger, but it was a carrier's plane. It wasn't that kind of plane, but that was the name of it, Flying Tigers. And then about halfway through, they let you go meet your wife in Hawaii, and so they sent me from Vietnam to Hawaii, and Sandy flew from here, Muleshoe, or wherever she flew from, anyway, for 2 or 3 days, and then she went home, and I went to Vietnam, and then after my time was up, they just sent me in an airplane from Vietnam to in the U.S. somewhere.
My name is Elmer Lusson.
And tell me what branch of the military?
I was in the Army, 25th Division, 35th Artillery in Korea.
In Korea.
Yeah.
So what years did you serve?
52 to 54 in Korea.
1952, 54.
Yep.
So you saw a lot of action.
Yep. I was there during the war. I was there when the ceasefire was too.
So toward the end.
I was a bulldozer operator for the artillery, and when the war was over, I was there for a while taking out bunkers and stuff. It had to all be cleared off by the 38th parallel.
Right.
So, I forget how many feet it was, but it was like a quarter of a mile each side of the line. And I ran the bulldozer there until I came home then. Yeah. Well, I was very lucky to get the bulldozer job, and I was in the big guns, and there I sat back of the lines like a half a mile, and I dug the parapets that the big guns set in, and then the roads was real bad over there. They didn't have much for roads, and when I wasn't digging any parapets, I was making roads. I can't say nothing bad about the service. I was proud to serve my country, and the saddest part is right now we got such a divided country for politics that, I've always been very proud of the United States, and right now I'm still proud of it, but I wish they could get along better than they do.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I hope everything turns out good at this election.
Hello, I'm Kerry Frost. I am the special ed math teacher at Watson Junior High. I am a former Air Force Staff Sergeant. I enlisted in December of 1999, and I served until May of 2013. So for 14 and a half years, I've served in the U.S. Air Force. My husband, who served 26 years when he had retired, was the reason I joined, because he had all these cool, awesome guys he got to work with, and he got to go places, and I was like, why not? I mean, at least I'd have a job when we get stationed someplace else, which I did, but anyway, in the long run, it ended up where I could fulfill my lifelong dream of becoming a teacher. And I used the GI Bill and other resources from the VA to help pay for my college education and get my teaching degree when I graduated from the University of New Mexico in December of 2012 with my bachelor's in teaching. And the best memory I have from the military is going overseas and going to countries that people are thankful for what we did and for freeing them whenever they were living an oppressive life and under strict control, and for them to say thank you was the best thing that I remember happening to us whenever I was in Kuwait City. Lots of people would walk up while we were in the mall. They knew we were Americans, and they would say thank you. Thank you for freeing us. So.
What's your name?
Mike Batag.
What branch of the military did you serve in?
The United States Air Force.
And what years were you in the Air Force?
From 71 to 77.
So, and what are some of your favorite memories of your time of service? Where were you?
I never left Texas. Started in San Antonio at Basic, went to Wichita Falls for my medical training, and got back to Abilene, where I was from. Well, the most exciting event I had was I was on an ambulance run to Abilene High School for a kid that was shot. And we pulled up out there, and I opened my door and the window got blew out. I got back in, backed out, and went and called the cops, and that was kind of exciting.
Yeah. So were you a paramedic in the Air Force?
No, for the biggest part, except for the last 2 years, I was just. I did work in the emergency room for like 4.5 years, but we had the first 6 EMT paramedics in the Air Force trained right there at that hospital, and I was one of them.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Candace. I graduated Muleshoe High School in 2017. I enlisted into the United States Marine Corps for about 6.5 years already. I have been to many places overseas. I've traveled to many different countries, like the best program, the best branch, if you ask me. I currently am working in the United States Consulate at Saudi Arabia. Pretty much what my job entails is just making sure our nation's secrets are being kept secured, making sure nothing happens at the embassies, or if there is some type of conflict, we are the ones to, de-escalate the situation, or, help the consulate workers or embassy workers, the ambassador, pretty much evacuate if need be. If anybody has questions on what my job is, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I am currently, like I said, overseas in Dubai right now at the McDonald's. So that's why you hear some music in the background. But like I said, guys, I cannot preach it enough. I was a troubled teen growing up. Joining the military has been the best thing ever. I'm not trying to make it a lifelong career, but I do definitely, take every moment with graces and thank God every day for this opportunity that I've had. If I could do it, you could do it, and I definitely recommend it. And like I said, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Engaged in combat, stability, and humanitarian operations, we honor you. To those service members who paid the ultimate price or are still missing or accounted for, we honor you by remembering the sacrifices you and your families made for our great nation. Thank you. At this time, please rise for a moment of silence for our fallen veterans as Mr. Ben Stefano plays taps.
Thank you, Ms. Stefano. As we conclude this Veterans Day Assembly, would you join me in covering the brave men and women who have served and are serving in our nation in prayer? Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your blessings of freedom and the opportunities it provides. We thank you for the strength and unwavering commitment of our veterans, and for the love and support of their families. We thank you for the unity of our nation and for the peace and security we have the privilege to enjoy. We ask for your blessings on our veterans and their families. We claim a covering of protection over the men and women that are serving. Fill their hearts with strength, comfort, and peace. Father, we ask that you help us reflect on what our veterans did for our country and pierce our hearts to understand the gratitude they deserve. Father, we know that your blood and body was the greatest sacrifice. Let us not allow our pride to overrule you who sits on the throne, but instead let us always remember to honor you in all we do.
Thank you. This concludes our Veterans Day celebration. I would like to thank everyone who participated in our program today. Most importantly, thank our veterans and their families for honoring us with your love and sacrifice for our country. Veterans, you and your families are invited to a reception in the commons area outside of the auditorium this direction. Thank you for coming and for serving our country. Students, please sit and wait till the veterans leave, okay? Thank you.